Hello there, my name's James and welcome back to my anxiety management channel, and in this video we are going to be looking at avoidance. Now, avoidance is a behaviour which is very common amongst people that suffer from anxiety, in the belief that if we avoid something, our anxiety is going to feel better. So using this tool, which is called the vicious flower of avoidance, we're going to demonstrate how actually avoidance will not just maintain your anxiety, but very often will actually increase it. The topics of avoidance that I have around the circle here are all subjects which have been discussed regularly in my anxiety group. So we're going to start with self-maintenance. So when we're not looking after ourselves, we're feeling so anxious that we don't feel we can look after ourselves. We could be talking about not taking regular exercise, not attending to personal hygiene, not taking a proper diet. Any of those things are just going to reinforce how bad we're feeling on the inside, and it's going to bring it to the outside. So visually we sort of have this confirmation of how we're feeling on the inside, and that's not going to help your anxiety. By not engaging in exercise, for example, we're then depriving our body of those feel-good chemicals which are very often released when we even go for something as simple as a walk. Even getting the sun to you, getting some air into the lungs will help with your anxiety. If we let our diet down and we don't look after ourselves, and it may be because we're feeling those physical symptoms of anxiety such as nausea, dizziness, or those butterflies, and we feel that we physically can't eat, yet by not eating, what we're actually doing is we're forcing our blood sugars to drop, which is going to make us feel less motivated to do anything. It's going to make us irritable, and again, it's not going to help the anxiety, it's just potentially going to increase it, as well as bringing on other emotions like low mood or feeling irritable with people. So the next, we've got isolation, and people tend to isolate when they're feeling anxious. It could be that they find the world out there is far too scary and they won't put their foot outside the front door. It could be avoiding within your own household. It could be avoiding people at work. However, which way you look at this, if we're not going out and we're actually just staying indoors all the time, then what we're doing is we're not evidencing to ourselves that actually the world may not be as scary as what our thoughts are. If we're avoiding people at work, this is potentially going to create an atmosphere, or it's going to create problems at work, which is going to be another cause for anxiety. And also within your own household, it's not going to be a happy house if you are spending time away from the people that care about you. Sleep. Now, very often people will become quite anxious about sleep. It might be the belief that they're not going to get any sleep tonight. So with that in mind, what they tend to do is that they actually avoid going to bed, just to try and prolong that feeling. It's a worry that they don't need to worry about if they've accepted it. However, with this, that then becomes a new type of habit, and the more sleep deprived you become, obviously it is going to increase the anxiety, because you're going to be thinking to yourself, I'm never going to be able to sleep properly again. It's going to increase your irritability. It is going to make you feel lethargic. On the other side of that, there are people that won't actually wish to come out from beneath their duvets because they find their duvets really comforting and really safe. They're a really safe place. However, what happens sometimes within this is that the duvet actually becomes the dungeon, where again, not evidencing to ourselves that the world out there isn't going to be as scary as what's going on in our heads. Binging. Now, binging could be seen through in many ways. It could be drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes. It could be food. It could be the television. It could be gaming. It could be anything that you're doing in excess to try and get away from the emotions that you're feeling at that point. So in the case of alcohol and narcotics, very often they're actually going to mirror those feelings of anxiety, and with alcohol especially, that is a depressant, so it's actually going to make your mood a lot lower. Drugs, very often, if they're stimulating drugs, they're going to increase those physical symptoms of anxiety. If we're taking ourselves off and we're spending half of the night playing on Nintendo or other games, then we're not dealing with the situation, and actually we're just replacing replacing our anxiety with something that really isn't real. Again, it can start to affect your sleep. If we're starting to use food to make ourselves feel better, then that could lead to self-esteem, regret. So again, it's not going to deal with the anxiety. The anxiety is still going to be there, it'll still be maintained, and it will very probably be increased. Mood and thoughts. So our mood, if we don't want to be around people, can generally be quite snappy, quite irritable. It's almost as if you're a hedgehog, you've curled up into that ball with lots of spikes around you so you don't get bothered. However, this isn't going to help if you're at work, it's not going to help an atmosphere with your colleagues, and it's certainly not going to help create a happy household. Our thoughts also, we tend to use emotional reasoning, so we don't have to actually do the task that we've set ourselves. We use our emotions to reason why not, or our thoughts. And unfortunately, if we're feeling anxious, our thoughts and our reasoning is going to not be as accurate as logic. Reassurance seeking. So trying to complete a task in which you're constantly asking somebody, is this okay? Will this do? What do you think of this? You're sort of putting the onus onto somebody else. This can lead to perfectionist thinking, which is a anxious thinking style. It can lead to you not being able to evidence for your own self that you're able to do a really good job. So as I've mentioned, in all of these, they're likely going to increase the anxiety. On top of that, we've discussed feelings like guilt, shame, and low mood, self-esteem. In this graph down here, this is generally how anxiety manifests itself. So if we're avoiding the task, that thought and that anxiety doesn't go away or decrease for quite a while. Compared to this one, where we're actually starting to do stuff. And although that anxiety is high there, it goes down a lot quicker. And then the more we do it, yes, there's still anxiety, but it goes down a lot quicker. And with each zigzag, you'll notice that the graph becomes slightly smaller. So how can we start to challenge this? So first of all, it's about being aware that you're avoiding. It's about being aware of those physical sensations that happen. It's about being aware of the thoughts that you are having. And once you're aware that you're avoiding, then you can start to challenge them. Maybe you can look at the cost and the benefit of doing any of these tasks. One of the best ways is to give yourself maybe a time limit on a task. Give yourself 5, 10, 15 minutes on something. That way it's not too daunting. If you manage to complete that time limit, then you've done the task. If you manage to go over the 10 or 15 minutes, then you've exceeded the task. However, you've given it a shot. You have not failed. Just trying to do something in a graded way. Maybe putting one foot outside the door, the next day walking to the end of the path, the next day walking to the end of the street. But the key is awareness of avoidance. In my next videos, I'm going to be looking at some thought challenging, and we'll be seeing if we can use these to try and help with avoidance and other situations in which we're going to be feeling anxious. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.